Well, hey fans, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Spoilers, and today we're talking spoilers for God of War Ragnarok. Now, as you all know, most of my spoiler videos are about movies, but every now and then I decide to do a video game, and the last one I did was God of War 2018, and I was so excited for this game to come out. Once I reached my platinum, I decided I would do another spoiler talk. But what makes today even more special is I have one of my oldest friends in the world, Mr. Daniel Henry, here to join us. Introduce yourself to the fans, Daniel.
Hi, how you doing, everybody? My name is Daniel Henry. I've known Harrison, Mr. Flip Frog himself, for going on over a decade. Well, actually, in a few more years, it'll have been close to 2 decades.
Yeah,
By
that's crazy.
2 years, it'll be 2 decades. In 2 years, it'll be 2 decades. I'm a high school teacher and an avid gamer.
And to be more specific, he is a history teacher, so he's the best person to talk to about this subject, as we are dealing with some kind of history. Mythology is rooted in history.
Very
true. To get back to what we're talking about today, God of War Ragnarok. Dan, we'll start with your overall thoughts on the game, and at the end, just give us a little score.
Overall, I did enjoy the game. I think it lives up to the bill of being in the God of War franchise. Gameplay wise, the mechanics of it, very good. I will say for both games in this new iteration of the series, I was never a huge fan of like having to flip myself around in order to block from behind me. But I do respect like the realism that comes with that. I think they were going for more of a slightly more realistic combat feature, I guess, with that. The story I thought was great. The characters they brought in I thought were very good, even those that didn't have like a major impact on the story, but kind of were just mainly involved in some of the side quests, like Ratatasker.
He was funny.
He was funny, especially in all his branch offs or iterations, his motions, I guess is the best way to view him. So if I had to give it a score, I saw a lot of 10 out of 10s out there. And originally, when I beat it, I was thinking 10 out of 10, but after I gave it some thought, I would have to give it like an 8.5, high 8.5, close to 9.
8.5, 8.5. That sounds good. Me, myself, I really enjoyed the game. This was supposed to be originally, this was going to be my first PS5 game. I was going to wait and buy it on Black Friday last year and get God of War when it came out. But to this day, I still don't have a PS5. And at this point, I've just settled on the fact that I am not going to get a PlayStation 5 until they release the PS5 Pro or Slim or whatever. But I'll tell you this game, I have it on PS4. It worked fine. It is not built for PS4. I think it would have went a lot smoother on PS5. It lagged a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, I would say I didn't see any. There was not a single lag.
Yeah, all the gameplay I watched online where they run it on PS5, it is so smooth, and I was so jealous. But like I said, it didn't like detract too much. But yeah, it lagged a little bit. Apparently, there's some kind of glitch. I didn't get my final Frozen Flame, so I couldn't upgrade my axe all the way. But it didn't. It didn't detract from my platinum though. I still got that platinum.
Okay.
I've now platinum every God of War game.
That's all that matters. Keep the streak going.
I did enjoy it. I thought the story was great. I still think it should have been 3 games. It did feel a little rushed in the end. But we'll get more into that later. Overall, in terms of the score, I think I'll have to agree with you. 8.5. I give the first game a 9.5. And it's not 8.5 is not bad. That's pretty great in terms of games, especially with me now, kids, and the very few games I get to play. But I am super excited to see where this franchise will go next. So the first question I have for you, Daniel, because it's a question I had after playing through this game, with all the, mythological beings presented in the entire franchise, what makes a god? Like, Kratos is technically a god now. He was given that status at the end of the first God of War game by taking Ares' place. The other guys pretty much made him a god. But like, you got the Jotuns, and you have like in the previous series you had the what were they, the Fates?
Oh yeah.
And the Furies. You have Titans. So what, I guess Titans are technically gods, but why are like the Jotuns not god? Like, why is Kratos, Odin, Thor, why are they all gods instead of just immortal beings? What are your thoughts on that?
So if I'll start with like, I guess, Greek gods. I'll start in that range. So technically, I guess, since Kratos is the son of Zeus, it's not enough apparently to just have the blood of a god in you, like, because he would technically have been a god. They never really say whether or not Deimos is a god.
I think Deimos is his like brother. I think Zeus is his dad too.
I think so, huh?
I think he, yeah.
It might be, because they never stated who Deimos' father is or how far apart they are in age. But apparently it's not enough just to be like fathered by a god, because he very much was a strong. He was like a stronger human, I guess. All it does is strengthen like it makes you stronger than your average human, just having like the father, like having
Mm-hmm.
half god, but it's still not enough to be considered a god. I guess it has to be like unlocked, or you have to be like elevated to that status for it to be considered truly a god.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than just simply like it being like part of your bloodline. Because if we go to like Norse mythology, when you think of Asgard, Asgard is like, where the gods reside.
Mm-hmm.
But there were like people in Asgard as well.
Yeah.
Not everybody is a god in Asgard. And I think it's become very apparent that godhood it's very ambiguous, I think, which I think is both good for the story, because it allows people to have these kind of questions. So I do enjoy that. And even when like your connection to like the source of your godhood is cut off, you can still maintain it. You just aren't as strong, or you aren't able to harness all those powers you had before. Because I mean, when Kratos leaves Greece, he technically has a large amount of godly power inside of him, but like the source of that power, Greece, is now kind of in shambles. So he has is kind of the base abilities of a god, being able to regenerate, elevated strength and stamina, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It was just a question I had like after playing the game, because I was around like you have the Jotuns
Mm-hmm.
who are scarcely throughout the game, but they are strong like gods, long lived like gods. Some of them are large. Thor's mom was a
Right.
Jotun. So like why are they not considered gods? Is it
Right.
do you need to be Odin actually mentions like who's ever worships you? Is that what makes you a god? Is if
Mm-hmm.
you have the quote unquote immortality means you don't really die by age.
Right.
Somebody worships you, is that what gives you the status of God as opposed to just like some kind of a mortal? Because the Norns show up in this. Like
Mm-hmm.
technically, I don't think they're gods, but they are in that pantheon of like
Like the
uh, ha-
Furies and the Fates
yeah,
and
they
like
have like abilities, they live long and they can mate with gods, all this stuff. So I think that is a question that I think eventually I would like for this franchise to answer. And I do think, and we'll get into the mask later. That's why I thought the mask was going to answer that. And I think that's the
yeah.
question Odin had. Like what comes like for me, like when humans die, at least in Scandinavia, some of them they come to Asgard, they go to Valhalla or whatever. What about me? Where do I go when I die? We
Mm-hmm.
don't know. And at the end of the game at Brock's funeral, like I think the little singing dwarf guy, he
Right.
says, I don't know what happens like for them when they die, like they go into the light. He says, I don't know what's beyond that, but I imagine Brock's like stirring up some kind of trouble or whatever. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like eventually this franchise has to answer
What happens to gods when they die?
yes. And because as we know, for some gods, well, so far only one,
Reach a
they
higher
can
plane.
ascend to another level, which is what happened to Athena. She was killed, she came back.
Right.
And one theory online right now is that Thor may come back because he dies in the same way that
Nobly.
Athena died. He like turns into like dust and goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Heimdall, he just kind of his body's just dead.
Yeah.
He's gone. So
It was unexpected because you were expecting, like, when they died in Greece, I don't know, maybe it's because their bodies were filled with like the evils of Pandora. And so like, it was like unleashing these various plagues upon the world. Maybe that's why.
mhm.
So maybe that's why it wasn't the same kind of effect in new series. So like there wasn't anything unleashed. He was just dead.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
what we got
his
Ares
eyes burnt.
exploded. What's her name? That was a Hades' wife. She just exploded.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much. And,
Yeah.
and speaking of Greece and Kratos, like how old is this man by this point?
You
I
know,
had did the math at one point, but I really don't even know at this point.
I'd say he could be around about 1,000 years old if we're looking at like following like legitimate timelines.
Hmm.
Because I looked at like the Peloponnesian War, the war between Athens and Sparta, was
Hmm.
like 431 to 404 BC.
Hmm.
And in Norse mythology, it gets like heavily pushed. Well, it reaches, I guess, more of the outer world during like the Viking raids on like England and stuff like that, which is like
Hmm.
in 1,000, 1,100 around that time and stuff like that. But there are traces of it around like the 6th century, so the 500s. So
Hmm.
if we're going by that time, could be like, it could be 1,000 years old, but I think I clearly they're not using that kind of timeline. A lot of this stuff is kind of because they did something like how, there are different realms in the Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And if you remember when geez, I don't know why his name's escaping, but the head that's with you.
Mimir
Thank
slash
you.
Puck.
Right, Puck slash Mimir. He's like, how is your world like, shaped? we walk to the realms, you know?
Yeah, or go on a boat or
We
whatever.
sail there to the different realms. It's like we don't need to use some kind of weird portal. So I think if I had to give him an age though, I'd maybe put him around 200.
Like 200 physically or 200 actual, like how long he's been alive, 200 years.
I'd say maybe alive 200 years.
Okay.
Physically, he looks like he's in his late 40s. Like good shape, late 40s. Like he honestly, he looks like Mike Tyson. That's how I view Mike Tyson like right now. The kind of shape he's in.
Yeah. I did the math at one point, and I think it was like, I forget. I actually looked up like when Spartans are like trained and like what age they would be like the captain.
They started like
Yeah,
7.
they go like when they're a kid, and then by the time they're like 20, they're pretty much in the Spartan military. And then I think I got to like 25. And then, as we know, Chains of Olympus is like 10 years before the first God of War game. So in the first God of War game, he's like 35. And he has the adventures that happen in between there with
and Ascension happened
right after between 1 and 2.
No, Ascension that was between.
No, Ascension. Yeah, Ascension was the very first chronological game.
Is that he was still serving the gods in Ascension?
Yes, that was his first. That was right after he broke his. So no, yeah, Ascension I think is right after Chains of Olympus, right?
I think so.
Because that's when he broke his tie to Ares. But it's also set before Chains of Olympus because he has the flashbacks of when it happened. Because remember we made that comment about like one of the very first things he does. It's like he saves a guy.
This is nice, Kratos. Hold on.
Yeah, it's something he didn't do in the original games. But yeah, it's like, so like in the first God of War game, he's like 25. And then he ascends to his godhood at the end of Ghost of Sparta. And then in God of War 2, he's a god. So we don't exactly know how long.
No, he was a god before Ghost of Sparta. He was already a god in Ghost of Sparta.
I thought, well, no, they at the end of the game, they pretty much say he was a god. But remember, it wasn't at the end of Ghost of Sparta, it was official. He officially accepted the position.
Okay.
Like Athena told him
because they were worshiping him already as the God of War. Because when you go to Sparta, you can see a statue.
A statue of him being built, which proves Odin wrong. Talking about, has you ever been worshipped? He's like, yeah, I've been worshipped. And they knew me. They knew me from back in the day.
You know who I am. Ask about me. Look me up.
So that's like the time that we don't exactly know, like how long from when he went from just the Ghost of Sparta to being the God of War.
Right. Like how long was he? Worship like between the first God of War and God of War 2, how long had he reigned as the God of War?
Yeah,
that's the only thing. That's the biggest question.
And if you, I guess, give it like a generation from back then, let's see what the longest people lived to, what, like 40 max?
Maybe.
Let's stretch it out to 50. So let's say chronologically at the end of God of War 2, he's like, what's that, 50 plus 30, 85. And then God of War 3 happens right away. And then at the end of God of War 3, he ends up in Scandinavia and he has a 13-year-old son.
How long do you think he traveled there?
See, that I don't know. He apparently went by boat.
That could be.
And back then, that's a bit of a trip.
That could be about a year.
Yeah. And we don't know how long he was with Faye before they fathered this kid. Right. So I would agree. He's probably maybe in his
150 something there, maybe.
Yeah, early hundreds, still with the shape of like a 40-year-old dad. And since he's a god, pretty much he might still technically be like in his 30s or 40s, because once he attained that godhood, his aging
in time.
Yeah, pretty much. So hopefully they do explain that one day. I would like it to see like Mimir make a joke about like, how old are you, by the way? And
he says a number. He just says something around. He says around. He says I stopped counting after like 150. He says something like that. You know.
Yeah, and mentioning Faye like I did earlier. I feel like there were a few things missing from the game, namely like how did Faye die? Let's kind of skip over that,
because I mean I assumed the giants were as long lived as gods. I figured they were. I honestly, like you said, I figured the Jotuns were basically like your Furies, like your Fates. They were just like another strong, except like there were more of them. So they had a whole realm that was theirs. Clearly, she wasn't weak if she could go toe to toe with Thor.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe that. That's another thing that I think that they had I thought was going to play a bigger role. These lightning icicles.
Yeah.
Was like I assumed like maybe they stretched across the realms. That's what I thought, but we can get to that later. But so clearly she wasn't just gonna get like snuck. So my assumption is maybe it was a sickness, but then my next thought is like, what sickness can kill them? Is there like something that only Jotuns can catch? So that would be my only guess, because if something had killed her, I feel like there would have been some kind of revenge side quest at some point in time.
Yeah, like there's like that question, it still baffles me. Apparently, she did foresee her death, and apparently that's like part of the visions, like where Kratos had, like she was preparing him, like, hey, look, I'm about to die soon. You're gonna have to raise this baby all on your own. I think she died. Well, how long? How old was? I guess she probably died shortly before the events of the first game. She was old enough to raise Atreus and teach him some things. But I heard one theory online that she died from the wounds inflicted of her fight with Thor that she had. But chronologically, that doesn't make any sense.
That would have to be before she met him.
Yeah,
and so she was well enough to if she was well enough to have a child, and it wouldn't be. It must not have been that bad.
Yeah, and like I can only feel that it's some kind of sickness, but that would be, they could have had a quick explanation of like what sickness can kill an immortal. Like Mimir could have easily said, "Oh, I heard of something that happens to Jotuns or something special
some kind
to
of
their
plague
realm."
something, right?
Yeah, and I wish they could explain that. But and it's stuff like that that I felt was missing. Other things. Like I wanted to see more gods. We didn't really get like in the Greek, I don't know what do you want to call it, the Greek saga.
Pantheon.
We got tons of gods, and there were still gods we didn't see.
We just
in
heard
the Greek
about
pantheon.
like I didn't even know about the one from Chains of Olympus, the sleep one.
Morpheus.
Morpheus, like
he is the whole bad guy of a game. He doesn't
he's the
make
main
an
bad guy.
appearance.
Like he's like the hidden bad guy the entire time. He's like taking advantage of the situation. Like, let me just this dude's here. And then we see the sister who's like in the shell.
Oh yeah, Eos.
Yeah, exactly. Like all
we don't see
gods,
her brother. Yeah.
We see all these gods. We see Artemis's head, we never see her physically, things like that.
Yeah.
They're saving it for a Netflix movie. Who knows?
Maybe. And I was expecting after the first game, the only god who we saw Baldur, we saw Magni and Modi, Mimir, technically now. I think that was it. Or Kratos. But those are like the only gods we see. Thor shows up at the end. And this one, I was like, they're gonna go all out. I thought it was gonna be 3 games. I still think it should have been 3 games.
It should.
But like I thought, because you got the Vanir gods and the Aesir gods. We only see 2. I forgot about Freyr. Freyr appeared in the first game too, but we only see 2 Vanir gods.
Well, technically,
3. Technically 3. Gná, Freya, and Freyr. We don't get to see their dad, who they don't say that he's been killed.
Right.
Who I think their dad is Njordir or whatever. And then when we go to Asgard, you got Odin. Who's Thor's wife? Sif.
Sif. Yeah, Lady Sif.
They mentioned Forseti,
who is Baldur's son.
Yeah. Like, how did he get it up if he couldn't?
Thor has a brother. Like Thor has another brother that they don't.
Yeah, it's
Vidar.
Yeah, there's like tons of gods, and like I was like, so this is Ragnarok. Everybody should be making an appearance if possible, even if they don't fight. We need to see
around
them.
Helheim. We don't see Hel.
Yep, don't see Hel. We
don't see her. We running around there.
It's strange to me that they decided to exclude all of these people with a game called God of War Ragnarok. Even if you don't fight them, I think seeing them make an appearance, like after you kill Baldur, sorry, not Baldur, Heimdall, and they mentioned that Forseti went and found his body. Like, why can't we see that scene play out?
Where's Forseti? What does he look like? And like Vidar, who he's the son of I think Odin and another giantess. So his powers are like equivalent to the Thor's. Like that's a major hole in there. So yeah, some more of these guys, I think that was one thing that I wish. And just kind of falling back on, like, if we're going like story wise and things we wish we had seen, I enjoyed like the quest, like hunting the dragons, hunting the berserkers. But this is just a little thing for me. I was thinking about it, like I really wish they had added a few more kill animations.
Yeah.
Like, killing the dragons the exact same way every single time. I wish they had at least a one for each weapon,
Yeah.
Something different. Especially with the berserkers. Like each of these dudes are gonna die the same way. That's 9 berserkers, all the same way. Come on, mix it up some. I don't know, but that's just I'm who knows how hard it was to develop the game, But that was just something that stuck out to me.
Yeah, and maybe
I can't keep exploding these dragons' necks. Like, come on, let me get an axe throw or something.
Yeah, and maybe that was the case. Maybe when they decided to shrink it from 3 games to 2, they're like, all right, we just got to nix any other gods that were going to make an appearance, because one of the things I thought was rushed about the game was the ending with Ragnarok and Surtur. Like the way they form it, like it's like that just came out of nowhere. Like they're just going to use his blades and it's going to work. And his wife, what's her name, Sinmara. She was cut from the game. People have like explored the data or whatever and found like her voice files. And if
Hmm.
you go to Niflheim, you can hear her crying.
Yeah, and they'll mention it. They'll
But
have a conversation about it.
yeah, but like we can't even go talk to her like that. And maybe wherever they're doing next, like even though it's not going to be set in Norse mythology, we see more of these people. Maybe they pop up. Like a thing, and going back to Greek mythology that I thought when the trailer came out, they showed him fighting one of those huntresses. And I wrote
Hmm.
like this whole article. I said, oh snap, it'll be really cool if that is Artemis, because that was the design they had for Artemis when she was supposed to appear in God of War 2, but they cut
That
it.
would have been cool.
I thought it would have been
Like
cool.
some kind of weird transformation she can make or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought it was that, oh snap, she went all the way to Scandinavia
To
like
hunt.
for revenge to hunt him down. Because like as far as we know, they were cool. She let him hold her sword in the first
Right.
game, and now he's destroyed Olympus. And like she's probably like, okay, I'm cool with you killing Zeus and everything, but you destroyed everything and then left. So and like
Right.
if like because we know what's her name is basically in charge now, even though she's in charge of a pile of mud.
Athena.
Athena could have sent her there or whatever. I thought that would have been cool if we got more people coming to like
Hmm.
hunt Kratos for his past actions and him having to explain to Atreus slash Loki, like,
What
yeah,
he used to
it's
do, how he used to
yeah.
be. Yeah.
Like, this is why we, are not as angry or whatever. So like more stuff like that, more gods, more, backstory. I did like in this game though that he actually spoke more. In the last game,
He
he
did.
barely mentioned anything about Greece.
Yeah, that's true.
In this game, he talked about a lot. He talked about his first wife, his
Hmm.
daughter, how he killed him, how he had a brother named Demos and everything. He talked about olives.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, what
What's
the
your
hell's an
favorite food?
olive?
Olives. The hell's an olive?
Yeah, that whole thing was funny. I do like how they talk more about like his time
Hmm.
in Greece, but I do wish more of those repercussions could have been felt in this game, and possibly it'll come back in future games. Who
Right.
knows where they're gonna like continue to go?
Hmm.
And speaking of going somewhere, like where did the giants go? Some of them put their souls in those marbles, which I think is a stupid
I
idea.
wouldn't have
Some
done
of
that.
them,
Yeah.
some of them were killed, and others they just left. They just went. They said, "Okay, we're done with this area of the world. We're going somewhere else." So where do you
And
think
that's
they went?
where Loki went to go find them, apparently, to
Yeah.
tell them that they could come back now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so clearly, if it was as simple as opening a portal and just leaving, I don't see why a lot of them just didn't say, you know what, let's just find someplace else. We'll come back when things will settle down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But where did they go? The assumption is just another realm, maybe a lost realm, a hidden realm. Maybe I mean, apparently they have a different level of magic in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Like soul magic. Maybe they knew something that they could do. Maybe they knew of places with the soul magic that they knew. I can't think of a place off the top of my head. Maybe I'm trying to think. Is there any place in the world that kind of in their mythology giants exist? Is that a thing?
Giants in Christian mythology,
Right.
or not mythology, but like the half angel, half human, they are
The
giants.
Nephilim.
Yeah, the Nephilim. So Nephilim, Niflheim, maybe. Well, giants aren't. Well, there are some giants in Niflheim, but they're all from Jotunheim. But like, we'll see. One theory I read online is that. Well, before I explain the theory, I did think at first like Asgard and Jotunheim and Midgard they were all separated by plains. But as you play through the game, there's like some ghosts of like some Midgardian fishermen who make their way to Svartalheim, and they did it
Mhm.
by boat. So it's like, are these places actually separated, or are they just supposed to be like,
Or
are
can
they on separate realms? Or are they just scattered throughout, and you actually have you? Is realm travel just like a quick
quicker
way to
way?
do?
Probably a
Yeah,
quicker way if I had to guess.
yeah, and you can actually travel to go to the space and time. But one theory I did read is that the giants actually went back to Greece and took over, and that they're like the Roman gods, and they just take on these
Oh,
roles. So that's where Atreus is going to end up and find out more stuff about his
yeah,
dad's past. So like
that'd be
whatever
kind of
Greek
cool.
gods are left, take on new roles with these giants as like the Roman gods.
Roman
So
gods. That'd be kind of cool. Okay, okay, that's nice.
so what going into this game, like what did you actually think was gonna happen? Like how do you think the
Okay,
story was gonna go?
so this is how I thought it was gonna. Because when I heard it was gonna be one game, I figured, okay, they're gonna have to punch a lot of into this. Because what I thought was actually gonna happen was, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't think it deserved to win Best Story for the Game Awards.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the twist where Tyr was Odin, I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god, okay, that's like the
yeah.
only big twist in the game. But what I thought was actually gonna happen, I thought maybe Odin he imprisoned Tyr, okay, and Tyr was kind of running the long con the entire time. He wanted to remove Odin so that he could become the new supreme god.
Mm-hmm.
In the last battle, it was going to be God of War versus God of War.
That sounds amazing, actually.
That's what I thought was going to happen. And so if they had gone 3 games, I feel like at the end of this game, you defeat Odin. Maybe Thor dies as well. Maybe it goes this way, and then like Tyr steps up, and like he somehow has like hidden followers. Some of the realms were behind him. Like I guess the Alfheim, they were supporters of Tyr at some point, but I guess they were bigger fans of Freyr. R.I.P.
Yeah.
to Freyr, man. R.I.P. to Freyr.
Man, he didn't have to die. I didn't think
Not
he had to die. Like
but,
yeah.
That's what I thought was going to happen. Like they're going 3 games. In this game, you see the defeat of Odin, and then the next game it ends with like it goes God of War versus God of War. That's what I wanted to happen, actually.
I was really thinking, like, considering how little we knew about Faye, I thought Faye, like, the whole thing was going to be like an elaborate plan by her for her to have her husband take down Odin. And like she was going to be one of the bad guys, but only because like she's willing to go through like be manipulative and go to extreme measures to make sure her plan works, kind of like a Killmonger. And that it would end with like him having to take her out and being like, this isn't the way. Like, because I was like, okay, there's no way we don't know this much about her, and like she's just dead throughout the whole game. I was like, she's gonna appear and she's gonna have like faked her death to get revenge on the giant. She's pretty much gonna she's gonna tear all this shit down.
Like, it was me all along.
Yeah, like kind of like, did you watch The Blood of Zeus?
Yeah.
Kind of like what Hera did in that show. Like I'm gonna knock all this shit down.
Like, I'm burning it to the ground.
Yeah, but yeah, that's where I saw it going, and it's not like a bad ending. I don't see like the fight with Thor and Odin at the end. To me, does not compare to the fight against Zeus at the end of like God of War 3.
Compared to the fight against Baldur, to me.
Yeah, agreed.
In scale.
Yeah.
Like the battle going on around you in scale, that's cool. Seeing like Fenrir running by and some of the other and the other 2 wolves. I can't remember not Specky and is that Specky and the
moon and the sun wolf. Yeah.
Seeing them run around, seeing Jörmungander in the background, seeing all the elves and the army of the dead sailing in, seeing all that was cool. But those 2 fights, I was deeply unimpressed, especially the fight against Thor. The first fight against Thor,
that was good.
The game was better.
Yeah,
I was like, yo, this is great. Just boom, boom, boom. And when they're force pushing their weapons, each other. And then the fight against, unless I was hoping that Odin was gonna do some kind of weird Crow Master transformation,
Yeah,
he just stays as an old man swinging his staff, his extendo stick.
Yeah,
the stick that Goku used to have, the
power pole.
Yeah, he's using his power stick the whole time.
Yeah, he was not as fearsome as I thought they were gonna make him. He was more like a grand wizard.
Yeah, he really was. Like he knew
a lot of magic. Yeah. And I was expecting, like, from all the stories they told in the first game, like this, like he acts cool and calm, but when it comes down to it, he's gonna mess you up.
Right.
And it was kind of like, I'm beating this old man up.
I was like, I don't even feel good, right? We jumped him 3-on-1. I was like,
yeah. And like even his magic was cool, but it was like you've kind of seen that magic throughout the game. I thought he was gonna pull out some spells that are like
something new.
I wanted something with some weight. Like when you're fighting Zeus, you understand why this man's the king of the gods.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But when you're fighting Odin, it's like,
this is the king of the gods. I thought it was like, man, Zeus would have beat your ass. That's what I was thinking. Zeus would have beat the brakes off you.
Yeah. Like,
so yeah, that's one thing. That's one of the reasons why I also docked it. Because I was like, these fights were I wanted something epic in scale. I mean, I guess God of War has always been known more for like its first fight being epic in scale to really get you like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm killing a Hydra. Also, did you feel like there were a lot less quick time events in this game?
Oh yeah, there were there any?
I don't remember like there were like I did maybe 1 or 2, but I just did not feel like there were really any for a game that like I had to stay on my wits in those boss fights. Like, when's it coming? When's it coming? When's it coming? You know? And this time I was like, once you got to the end part, I was like, oh, well, he's dead. Like no quick time events. So I think I don't know.
Speaking of boss fights, actually, I think it was good. So what was your favorite boss fight in the game?
I'm probably gonna have to say Heimdall.
I was gonna say that too. He was probably my favorite like bad guy in the game. He's just so cocky and rude, and I was like, this dude. He kicked through it. I was like, come on, man.
Man, as soon as he, it was like after he got punched, I was like, he's shook now. Look at him.
Yeah.
Last time he been hit, he shook. I can see it.
Yeah. The one thing, like with Heimdall and his abilities, and like he could pretty much foresee everything and he can move really quickly. What in the world, like how, like the fact that Thor scared him, the fact that
Yeah,
he
what do
was
you
like,
think?
"You're gonna beat me," he says, "Look into my eyes and you tell me how I'm gonna beat you," and he's like, "You're disgusting," and walks off. I was like, "That wow." I get Thor. Something's probably deeply
Right.
wrong with this man if he knows he can beat Heimdall and how he's gonna do it.
And
So.
that's actually another thing I want to tack on with Thor. Why was he so depressed? Like, I get like, did he not want to be a killer? Was that it?
I think it was something like that. He didn't want to be a killer anymore, but he thought that was all. That's all his dad used him for. He's like,
Right.
"You're a hammer. That's the nail. That's what you're going to do." And he didn't want to do that anymore. Two of his sons died, even though
That's
he didn't
cool.
really like them
He
that much.
apparently
They were
beat
still
he
his
beat him
kids.
anyway, but
Yeah, and also he was an alcoholic. They
no,
touched on
yeah.
that. He drank a lot, and apparently the mom used to drink a lot
Yeah,
too. Like
and
they
yeah, they
both.
both did
Yeah,
back
but she
in the younger
stopped.
days, but she was able to get clean. Yeah,
Yeah, but he stopped, but then
flipped up every
started
once in
again
a
throughout the
while.
game. So I think that was a point. I just don't. I think they needed more than just this game, or he should have been featured more in the game
Yeah,
to get to know him and why he's in this state. Because I just feel like we got to know more about like why Baldur was the way he was than why Thor
right.
was the way he was.
We did. We learned a
So,
lot about like as I heard balls, I was like, man, I can see why he might be a little mad. Like you can feel nothing. I mean, sure,
uh-huh.
it more like never being hurt, cool, but it's like you can never really enjoy the simple things in life because you can't
Mhm.
taste, you can't feel. You know you're alive, but like that's only because like you're moving. You
Yeah.
can't feel like life.
Yeah, him going crazy made a lot of sense,
It is.
but I did like the interpretation of Thor. I like the way he looked. It was
I did
totally
too.
different. I like the hammer. I
Yeah,
like
going
the
with
way
the
he
big
fought.
look. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that too. It was very good.
and we kind of mentioned this earlier. So, how do you compare this game to the other games of the franchise? Like, around where would you put it?
I'm still gonna have to put God of War 2 as like peak God of War.
Hmm.
And then after two, I would actually have to put this one maybe second after God of War 2. Maybe top well, I don't know, I put the first one, then this one as third. So God of War 2, then the first of the Norse series, then this one. And I have it tied there with third with Ghost of Sparta, actually.
Hmm.
Because I loved Ghost of Sparta. When you get that spear, I'm like, oh,
That
this
was a
here.
fun spirit, which is I'm pretty sure because people love that spear and they were
That's why
mad
they
that
brought
we
it back.
never had it again.
Yeah,
That's why they brought it
that's
back.
why they brought it back.
The
I can see
spear
that
and
was like,
shield
this is a
combo.
spear again, spear and shield. Come on now.
Yeah,
You can't
that
you can't beat that. It's for a Spartan too. Come on, that's like their go-to weapon. I'm like,
yeah,
this is too beautiful.
the
But
best
yeah,
form of fan service right there.
yeah, because I still have to put God of War 2 as one of the best. That's probably one of my favorite God of Wars. Then I would put the first one of this one at 2 and this one at 3.
Yeah. I think I have probably a very similar list. God of War 2, I think that's peak God of War, Kratos in the middle of his revenge. It was
Mm-hmm.
such like a fun game and great sequel to the original story. And the fact that early in the franchise, you really didn't know where it was gonna go. And the fact that it
Mm-hmm.
starts with you being betrayed by Zeus,
Right? You're
it
just like
was like epic.
and they do a good job making you angry
Yeah.
because it's like
It's like why?
I had this cool armor. You see it crumble off him. It's
Yeah.
like I worked so hard for that,
And,
and then you end up with nothing and you die. You're like,
yeah, and the fight in the Colossus of Rhodes,
that was great.
like you said earlier about like starting the game with like a big boss fight. When the first one was the Hydra, the second one was
Mm-hmm.
Colossus of Rhodes, and the third one it was
Sidon the hippocampi.
Poseidon. That was amazing. But yeah, and what made that fight in the second one like great is like once you beat it, when it's falling and the hand smacks you, and that's what gets you. I was like, bruh, come
Bruh.
on. And then like when Zeus shows up, I remember trying like I'm gonna try and fight this dude, and you're just like slumping around. But yeah, I think I'll probably put God of War 2, then God of War 2018. Then I think I'll put God of War 3, and then God of War Ragnarok, and then everything else falls below that. Like I said, Ghost of Sparta was good. Ascension was good. It was just kind of we've done this before. Like I don't hate that game. I
It was just
just
something about it, right? It just didn't seem. You know what it's like? Ascension almost. It was not exactly, but it felt almost like Batman Origins. Batman.
yeah,
Batman.
Arkham Origins.
Arkham.
Yeah.
Like it's the best worst Batman game I've ever played.
Yeah. And that's another game I felt like the ending was rushed because
Yeah.
they kind of like some things in the end you felt like they just kind of mashed together. Like, oh, really? Is that how that was supposed to be?
Didn't
Um,
Ares and like the Queen of the Furies, didn't they have a kid or something like
yeah,
that?
it was the guy that holds the contracts within his body. Like,
Ah,
because they
right,
that you find out in that game, like Ares, his plan was to overthrow Zeus.
right.
The cycle was going to continue because
But the
Zeus
kid was
overthrew
weak, right?
Kronos.
He didn't come
Yeah,
out strong, and so they
yeah.
tortured him. Right.
Yeah, they were like, well, you didn't turn out how we wanted, and then it later turned out they just tried to use Kratos for the same thing, and it still failed. Kratos just turned on him, which is his
Right.
brother in that aspect. But yeah, it's a good game. But yeah, I think they could have done better. Where do you see this franchise going next? And I mean immediately next. Where do you think the next game takes place, or where do you want it to take place?
Well, with how this one ended, I don't see how it's Kratos as the main character anymore because it ended too positively. Like he isn't forced to run. The world is still whole. Only thing that's not whole is Asgard, but that was the plan anyway, you know.
Yeah,
So he still has his hut, so has his two wolves. No, has his big ass wolf,
has
you
a
know.
new wife.
Babe,
I'm saying Frey is his new wife. They're together.
I
In
can
my
see it.
eyes, they're together.
Yeah, that's how I see it too. I was like, I think this is what this is going. All right, she's clearly into older guys, so so I don't see how they continue it with Kratos unless like he's just looking to make a visit, like looking to get some sun, you know. Yeah, just looking to get a little more sun on his ash covered skin. So if they were gonna go forward, it would have to be Loki, and it could be about him traveling, trying to find the giants. He ends up in like Egypt or the Americas, where I would like them to go. Honestly, I think I'm trying to think of all the different. Well, actually, now that you mentioned the thing about the Roman gods, I actually wouldn't mind that. But if they were going to do a multi-series thing, he should go there, and because Rome like subjugated Egypt. They would be connected. And the Romans, they had a habit of like adopting the gods of the people they were getting ready to fight.
Yeah.
They were like, well, I mean, we don't believe in them, but might as well cover our bases. We'll pray to them too. You know, why not? Who could it hurt? You know, that's what the Romans did. So I think I can see him having to try and prove himself towards these giant Romans, these Jotun Romans. And what's left of them, and trying to prove that he belongs. I'm a Jotun, and technically I'm a Greek, trying to
Yeah, he
prove
does
himself
have
to
that
him. And so
heritage.
by doing that, he has to then go to Egypt and subjugate this other pantheon of gods.
Yeah,
And
he
the only
does have
problem
a
is,
Greek name.
yeah, and but the only a Greek and a Jotun name technically
Yeah.
have two. But now the only problem is like how much time is going to pass. Is he still going to be like in a child's body? Because I can't see him taking down, Ra in this kid's body. I can just see Ra just kind of, flapping a wing and vaporizing him. You know what I mean? And now I'm just basing all my outside of like the typical ones that I know when it comes to Egypt off the cards from Yu-Gi-Oh! Partially.
Was it the
Where's
Winged
Slifer
Dragon
at?
of Ra, Slifer?
Where's
Slifer, I
Slifer?
think, was supposed to be like Isis or Osiris. Slifer
Yeah,
was
Osiris.
Osiris. Obelisk, they just made him up. That
Yeah,
was
I think
based off of
so. I
nobody.
think they just based him off the actual obelisk thing,
Yeah.
the twin.
Anubis, the great everybody. That's the boss fight everybody's waiting for is Anubis.
That's what they want to see.
So you think they're gonna make Atreus slash Loki as the new main character?
That's the only way I can see it because like all the other ones they build off of like so God of War 1 ends, you're the new God of War. What's he gonna do as God of War? Okay, God of War 2, they go there. Like, God of War 2 ends. Clearly, there's a God of War 3. You're riding with the Titans to go to war. God of War 3 ends, his body disappears. And we all think it's over. And then we find out that, he made his way to Scandinavia. God of War 2018 ends. And now we know, well, it ends with the after the credits scene, lightning bolts and there's this fat guy standing there with a hand. But this one, and so every one of them ends in a way that like there could be more after because it's not like a super happy ending or even like a final ending. Even the first God of War, you're like wondering, okay, so what's happening now that he's God of War? But this one ends, there's no more enemies. I mean, maybe there are other gods who maybe are like, loyalists to Odin.
Yeah.
And think that like they need to get revenge. I mean, that might be a good way for them to bring in a lot of the other Norse gods if they wanted to.
Yeah, but that stays, and they said they were done with the Norse mythology in terms of the setting.
So now I know you've told me a little bit about how you think they should go, but only way I can see that being a thing is like if it's like a DLC, which they have refused to do.
Yeah, and I am surprised they didn't have like a secret ending to this game or anything like that, like some kind of after credits tip to the next game. But I think at this point they really don't know. And like I told you before, where I think the game would go. Personally, I don't think they might involve Egypt in some way, but I don't think they go there next because God of War 2018 was supposed to be Egypt. They had like you can find videos online of like them they pretty much had like a first level mapped out with Kratos and Atreus like
And
going
then
through and
remember
fighting like
in
sphinxes and stuff.
Ascension, you meet the guy on your way to the
Yeah,
tower
from the
who's
land
from
of the
Egypt,
pharaohs.
land
Yeah,
of the pharaohs. I think the reason why they didn't go was because everybody was doing Egypt at the time. Like Assassin's
yeah.
Creed was going to Egypt.
Hmm.
It was everybody's about to be. They didn't want to Egypt up the market.
Hmm. Me, do you think so? If they made Atreus the new like main character, do they change the name of the game? Is it still God of War? Does it become God of Mischief? Does it? What is
That'd
it
be good. That'd be kind of good.
like?
God of mischief.
I think, and I'll just let the world know. See where I would like to see the series go, and this is like a one instead of like a new saga. I think the immediate next game, and it's like a one game story, is
Mm-hmm.
that it would be God of War Avalon, and you go to the island of Avalon, and the
Right.
main boss is Oberon, because we have in this game, Kratos is not the only foreigner to come to the land of the Scandinavian gods. You have Mimir, who in the first game is alluded to be Puck, and in this game, the Norns straight out call him Puck.
Right.
At one point, they say like they tell him like, "Shut up, Puck. There's no change in fate or whatever." So he's not from there. He's not from that pantheon either, and he swindled his way in and became
Right.
friends with Odin, became a god there. So I
And
would like to
Isaac
figure
there.
out like why did he leave? Because I think those are technically like Celtic gods, and that's like
Hmm.
that's right near Scandinavia. That's not too
It's a
far
boat
off.
ride. It's like a month boat ride, I think. Maybe a couple week boat ride.
Yeah, so I think it would be great if like Oberon sends like some people, like the game starts pretty much in Midgard, and like
Mm-hmm.
some people come from Avalon, whatever I guess fairies, strong fairies come. They're
Like
like,
answer it.
we're
You owe a
taking
debt.
the head, like we're taking the
Yeah.
head with us, and he's like, he needs to pay for his crimes, and since he
Mm-hmm.
left, and like the only reason why they didn't show up before is because he was cool with Odin, and then
Right.
Captain Tree. But now that Odin's gone, they're like, we're coming back for him, and
Mm-hmm.
then Mimir has to pretty much explain his past, and then
He
either he's
left he left Avalon in not such a happy manner.
yeah, and so either he's taken from Kratos, and Kratos has to go and save him, or like they're both taken away, but Kratos escapes, and they have to figure out like a way off the island
That'd be
or
kind of
whatever.
good.
And you
But
save like Atreus as like the post game stinger, and he shows back up and says, "I found the Jotun's dad. You need to come with me," or something like that. So you give
maybe.
Atreus time away, and like have this game have it be like a certain amount of time in the future, so you
Mm-hmm.
give Atreus time to grow up. And if you want it, you could bring Freya along, like his new sidekick. It could be him and Freya, and that could be the partnership in the game. And if you do that, you can also include like Arthurian legend is like based in Avalon, so you got
Right.
Excalibur, Merlin. You could throw in. It's like, and it's kind of like Celtic mythology is almost like a cousin to Norse mythology. They like some things cross over, but not a lot. And like one of those things that crosses over is Beowulf. Like
Wow.
there are stories about him, I think, in both. So like that's a character who I really thought was going to show up in the Norse mythology. But if he's not, Beowulf is someone who I would like to see. So that's
That'd be
where I
kind
think they should go next. And then after that, sure. After that, go to Roman mythology or Egypt or Hindu, which is where a lot of people think they're going because of Tyr doing all those yoga poses when you see him traveling throughout the realms.
of right.
So I mean, hopefully it's good. Hopefully they take their time and just make another good game. They don't have to change the mechanics. I do want more weapons though. Like
I like
three
that.
is good. I want like six. I want to cycle
Serious?
through.
You trying to go God of Wars? You trying to go
I
Devil May Cry
I'm
style?
I miss the hammer. I miss the barbarian hammer from God of
Oh
War
man, I
2.
forgot
I
about that.
miss that thing
Yo,
so bad.
man.
It's
What
I
were the
want
other
it
weapons
back.
in God of War? You had the hammer, there was the bow,
The
the
bow, the spear of
cycle bow,
destiny.
the spear of destiny. That spear, this spear is better. That spear where you just use the crystals. I remember
Yeah.
that.
So yeah, the bow, the hammer, the spear of destiny,
Was that it?
the
Oh, and of course
chains.
the sword of Olympus.
Yeah. And yeah, him having a sword would be great too. Something like Excalibur. Yeah. He's
Right.
the reason Excalibur's stuck in the rock. At the end, he's like,
He
yeah,
fights, and then he jams in the rock.
yeah. No. We pretty much covered everything. Anything else you want to discuss? Anything you liked about the game, or just anything you want to discuss about it?
You know, Sony Santa Monica always does it well. As like I said before, great game. There were just like a few things over the course of our talk. I hit on a few things that were notches off for me. We didn't go deep into it, but like the mask, like I just felt like why, you know,
Yeah,
it
the
was like
mask.
all that for this. Like they were like, and some of those Atreus segments were long,
Yeah,
and like I mean like long, and I'm like all this, and he just shatters it. And also I thought that mask shattered real simple for something that was able to survive in lava. He just and it just
yeah.
shattered. And I could have like, everything in my mind was telling me because the little crack was glowing the same way that Athena was,
Yeah.
and even glowing technically the same way that like Zeus technically after you killed him, he ascended, but it was like a curse ascension, you know?
Yeah, because he came back and got beat back into his body.
Yeah. And so even it was still like the same ghostly pale green color as that. So I could have sworn like, okay, cool. Finally gonna figure out what happens. Didn't even get a little bit into it.
I
And
felt the exact same way Oda did.
I
When
felt
when he breaks it and it goes to the portal and it closes, Oda's like, "What was all this for?" I was like, "That's
why
exactly
did I
what I
do all
felt."
this?
I was
What
like,
was all
"Bro,
this?
like,
Why did we do all this? That's one thing that I have to speak on. That's another one of those things that just docked the game for me. Like I didn't just do all this just for you to break this thing, kid. Like this was your idea, kid. This is your idea. So that's one thing.
That could have been the post-credit scene. Like the end of the game is just like
Crack opens back up.
either the crack opens back up or it just shows like Atreus just walking, going to where he's going, and then the mask. Like Kratos mentions how he can never get rid of the blades of chaos. Whenever he
Ooh, the
threw them
mask
away,
follows
they
him.
follow him. So he's walking away and like it pops back out of a portal right in front of him. So he gets it back. Because Odin states like you were meant to have this. This was meant to be like you figure this out. So
Right.
if he,
because he could read the language, even though it was like not, it wasn't like it wasn't Jotun. He could just understand it. He has like a natural inclination to like speak to animals and understand.
Yeah, he knows like all languages just naturally. That's one of his godly powers. So I think it would have been, and that will help him when he goes to all these different lands. He won't have a problem because he can just speak to whoever and pick it up easily. So I think that would have been a great way to end the game, to be like,
it would have been cool.
The mask will play some factor by the end of all of this.
Right.
So
that would have been great. Like he doesn't have to pop up ever like a portal. He's just like walking, and then like he turns a corner. It's like sitting right there on a rock. He's like,
yeah.
Oh God, why is this here?
Mm-hmm.
That would have been great. So yeah, that's one thing I think. What was the point of it all with the mask? Once again, like you said, learning about. I really wish Freyr hadn't died, especially when you learn about like how he lost his sword.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Like I thought that's another thing I think they did real good. The voice actors for this did a good job. Did such a good job.
I did not know that Deborah Ann Woll, she was Karen Page in Daredevil. She is Faye.
Oh, really? She's Faye?
Yeah, I was watching it when I beat the game and the credits are going. I'm just letting it play. I'm like, oh snap! Deborah Ann Woll was
was that the redhead
Faye?
chick?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
She did a great job. Like
she did.
Well, she did good in the first. Like she did a great job, just like displaying her emotion, like her anger, like when she was talking about like how he lost his sword. I was like, man, she sounds legitimately sad that her brother is gone, but like reminiscing about him. Like she's like, my little fool. I was like, oh yeah, man, why do you have to die? But that sword was so cool, man. Like how he used it. I just thought that was like he used magic to swing it, but he could still swing it normally. He flew with it when he held it. I just thought that was really creative. I wish I had been able to see him use it more.
And one thing I forgot to mention. Okay, where was Jörmungander? Like they never explained. So they put that giant soul into the snake.
When you go to Midgard, you can see his body. Like
he's still. Why didn't
he's up on the cliffs?
Yeah, why didn't he come and help in Ragnarok with his younger self? Like they put the giant soul into the snake turns into the giant version of himself, fights in Ragnarok, Thor knocks him back into the past. The older version is still there. Why didn't he come help? It's like, does he remember, well, I wasn't there, so I shouldn't be there to help myself? Like that stuff to me, like it's just confusing. If you can change fate, which Kratos clearly showed that you can do, having the older Jormungandr there as well to try and like help his younger self, but his younger self still gets knocked back in time, would have been a fun thing to see. But I don't know, they didn't want to include it. And
going down the fate path, I feel like the Norns themselves also were a nice add to Norse mythology, but were at the end not necessary. All they told you was you can't change anything, and of course
you change it.
And you change it. I was like, I wanted him to definitely be like, listen, I've dealt with your kind before, okay? Yeah. Who can't change fate? I've been dead twice, and I always come back.
Yeah,
I've gone through time. I've killed. I've rewound time. I've transported people through time. This means nothing. Like this is easy right here.
Yeah,
this is easy.
I did want more from the Norns as well. They were just kind of there. It's like, here's some Norns. I was like, but they didn't do anything. And you can't even go back and talk to them. You can like go back regularly and like talk to them and they tell you stuff or send you on quests. That'd be cool at least. But they're just blocked off when after you leave.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to see that horse again too.
Yeah, low key. I did too. And like they added that part in like the map. They added like a whole like another map section just for like two lane masses. And I was like, yeah, it's like a waste of data. You could have put the Samara in here with this data.
Yeah, that was fun. Like more of Niflheim too. They should have definitely did more with that. That was kind of
that's the ice realm, right?
Yeah.
And we saw a little bit more. Did we see it last game?
Yeah, that's the whole poison. You're going through the poison maze.
And this time we just saw the it was the crows, the
tree.
Craven,
with the ravens.
Tree. And
which
then
are kid spirits.
In the training round. That was
was dark. And then that's where you find Tyr because the Asgard prison falls there in the end.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like they could add more. But
yeah,
it was a fun discussion. Thanks for coming to talk about the game with me.
Anytime, man. You gotta get on that Fallen Order status. That way we can talk about that one when the sequel comes out.
We'll see. I was watching the first 9 minutes of gameplay today, so we'll see. I like Star Wars. We'll see if we can jump in. But that will do it for us. So Daniel, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. I go by Kid Chocolate on there. And you can find me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I just kind of do stuff on Instagram. I guess if you want to find me on Facebook, you can find Daniel Henry there. But most of the time, I'll probably think you're trying to sell me stuff. But nice meeting you all.
I'll link them in the video. Remember, you can find the actually, there won't be a full review for this game. Just us talking about the spoilers. So watch the spoiler video. It's on YouTube. But yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, anything and everything, Flip Frog books, whatever. The next Let's Talk Spoilers is going to be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, going back to movies. Daniel's actually coming to the screening with me, so are you going to come in on the next Let's Talk Spoilers and talk some of that?
I'll come in, man. I kind of, I need to probably, luckily since I have a Disney Plus membership, I can rewatch the other two Ant-Man to kind of make sure I remember so I can place them in order. Although, like I told you before, Ant-Man and the first Guardians of the Galaxy are like two of my favorite Marvel movies out of all of them because they're just so different from some of the other ones. That's why I really like them. But I'm really looking forward to seeing who's the guy playing Kang? I can't remember his name, but
Jonathan Majors.
That man's getting some work, boy. That man's been getting work.
Yeah, and they say he's good, so we'll see. I like him as He Who Remains, so we'll see if he's good in the movies. So that's going to be the next one. And until next time.
Well, tell us in your comments, tell us where you think the series should have gone and all that kind of stuff too, like what theories did you have and all that, you know what I mean?
Yes, please, in the comments, tell us the theories you had about the game. Where do you want to see the game go next? All of that. And until next time, we'll be seeing you.